really looking forward. So I was looking forward to all the presentations, but I'm really, really much curious now about the next one. So please welcome with me Antonio Castro. He has a PMP certification, is Program Director of Project Management Masters at La Salle Ramon Llull University in Barcelona. And throughout his career, Antonio has specialized in construction digital twins, governance and training and project management. And yeah, I'm happy to listen now with you all to his presentation, Building Cathedrals, Building Systems Where Governance Meets Diversity in Practice. Antonio, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Alex.
So you can share your screen and let us know when you're ready.
I'll try. Wait.
Yeah, looks good. Yeah.
Maybe now.
Wonderful.
Yes. I think it's a particular, I think Peru is in fashion, right? Good afternoon and good morning for some chapters. Thank you for all. Before I begin, I would like to thank the team for the invitation and for making this event possible. It's a pleasure to be part of this conference because it contributes to the grounds of our profession and to development of the sector undergoing extraordinary transformation and expansion. I want to congratulate you on all of these great achievements and express my special thanks for all chapter involved for their work and commitment to the professional community. Over more than 20 years of managing projects, I have had the opportunity to take part in truly exceptional experience and situations, some very challenging, and other particularly enriching. It is precisely because of everything I have learned along this journey that I'm here with you today to share reflections and experience that I hope you will find as useful as they have been for me. The project will be discussing today are in two cities, more than 500 kilometers apart in Peru. One is in Nuevo Chimbote and on the country's central coast, and the other is in Chota in the northern highline. Although they took place in very different contexts, both allow us to observe surprisingly similar dynamics. And there is another important detail. These projects were completed in 2007 and 2018, respectively. It means since that having been completed several years ago, they have little to offer in terms of today construction challenges. However, upon analyzing them with a little hindsight, I discovered something different. The passage of the time allow us to see patterns that they are often invisible when we are immersed in the day-to-day pressures of a project. Pattern relating to coordinations, adapting to change, and the way people respond to complexity. And that is precisely why I believe the lessons that emerge from these cases continue to be of enormous value to the growth of our profession. When we see the completed cathedrals, we usually admire its architecture, its size, and its details. We see the end result, but we rarely think about everything that had to happen for that structure to come into being, because building cathedrals is not just about laying bricks, or raising columns, or installing roofs. And this is where I would like to begin this conversation. For years in project management, we have tried to identify what really makes a mega project successful. Many would say it's planning, and yes, planning is important. Others would say it's technology, and they are right Some might think of the budget, cost, control, or timetables. But after being involved in the construction of two completely different cathedrals, I came to a different conclusion. A project don't fail or succeed solely because of their technical process, but because of how decisions are made and how the people who are involved interact with one another. Because behind every plan, there are interests. Behind every decision, there are expectations. And behind every risk, there are people interpreting reality from different perspectives. That's why today I don't not want to talk about solely about construction. I want to talk about something that happens in all mega projects, how governance and diversity of perspective come together in practice, and how the interaction can become one of the most important factors in a project success. The two projects I'm going to share appear to have similar objectives, to build a cathedral, but the reality was completely different. The first was built on flat ground. We were starting practical from scratch. There were technical challenges, of course. There was planning design, the coordination of contractors and supervision of the build. But the second project was a different story. There was an old cathedral built of Adobe, a cathedral that had for years been part of the community's identity. However, weather conditions and accumulated deterioration mean that maintenance it was no longer viable. There came a point with an extremely difficult decision to have be made to demolish. And when you look at that decision from the upside, seems like a technical matter. However, in reality, it wasn't. Because we were not just talking about a structure, we were talking about collective memory of history, identity, of people who had been baptized there, who had got married there, or who had said their final goodbye to relatives there. Suddenly, the project ceased to be merely a building project. It became a social process. Emotion came to the surface, concern emerged, different expectations emerged about what should be preserved, what should change, and how to the future should be built. And it was precisely that at the moment that I realized something very important. The complexity of mega project does not always lie in the engineering. Often it lies in managing people, expectation, and the meanings that each group attribute to the project. And, and that brings us straight to the first concept of this talk, of governance. When we hear the word governance, we often picture organizational charts, commits, processes, documents. And yes, all that is part of the governance. But my experience on this project has taught me something much simpler. Governance is basically the way we make decisions when the things get complicated. Because whilst everything is running smoothly, hardly anyone talks about governance. Governance comes into play when disagreement arise, when unexpected risks arise, when different people have different priorities, when we must choose between several possible options. I recall many situations where we had engineers concerned with technical aspect, church representatives concerned with symbolic aspect, contractors focused on implementation, and community members with completely different expectations. They all had valid reasons. They were all defending something important, and that's when the key question arose: who decides? On what basis? Or how are differences involved? That is governance. It's not just about control, It's about creating mechanisms that enable good decisions to be made even when there are multiple interests around the same table. And the more complex a project is, the more important that ability becomes. Because a poorly managed decision can lead to months of delay, but a well-managed decision can foster alignment, trust, and commitment. Over time, I came to understand that governance is not a system for controlling projects. It is a system for creating clarity with complexity increase. And here comes to the second concept, diversity. When we talk about diversity, many people immediately think of gender, age, and nationality. But in project like this, I discovered a much broader way understanding it. Diversity is the coexistence of different perspectives on the same reality. Many people are involved in a cathedrals, and the interesting thing is that they are all looking the same project, yet none of them see it quite the same way, and all of them are right. That's why diversity is not an obstacle to management. Diversity is information, it's a source of collective intelligence. It offers the chance to identify a risk that a single perspective could never detect. In fact, some of the best decisions we have made on this project came about precisely because someone brought a different perspective to the situation. Someone who saw something that the others were not seeing. Of course, diversity also creates tensions. It leads to disagreements. It leads to difficult conversation, but that is precisely where its value lies, because the strongest projects are not those who are everyone thinks alike. There are those where different perspectives can be heard, integrate and transform into the better decision. And this is where the fundamental connection of this talk begin to emerge. Diversity brings different perspective, and governance create the space for those perspectives to be turned into effective decisions. After working on these two projects, I began to see something that was so obvious at first. The cathedral was not really the project. Uh, what we were actually managing was a system made up of people, organization, interests, expectations, resource, decision, and relationship. A technical decision can trigger a social reaction. A concern raised by the community can alter the design. A change to the timetable can affect the stakeholders' confidence. Everything is connected. We were not managing a building, we were managing a living system. Governance provides the structure to the system, and diversity provides the information to the system. And system thinking allows us to understand how everything interacts. And this is where I start to notice something that keeps recurring in both projects. Every time the system suffers a disruption, the addition of the new stakeholders, the departure of a contractor, particular complex decision, or a conflict between the stakeholders, the same thing always happens. The coordination that had seemed stable was no longer so. Information flow have changed. The relationship that have been working up to that point had to be rebuilt. And for a while, everything seems to become strained. But the interesting part came afterwards. Rather than coming to a standstill, people begin to reorganize themselves. Not because anyone ordered them to, not because there was a detailed plan in place to correspond, but the system itself seemed to be seeking a way to regain its ability to function. And the more I observed this project, the more evident was the pattern became. First came the disruption, then a collective question could arrive: what has been lost? What is missing now? What needs urgent attention? From there, new connection began to form between people who had previously barely interacted. New ways of collaborating emerged, new agreements, new solutions. Little by little, these efforts began to be repeat and become a new ways of working. And finally, the system regained its ability to coordinate, but not because it had reverted to its previous state. That was the most fascinating thing. The system was functioning again because it had learned to function in a different way. Literature described this phenomenon of self-organization. And when I understood this concept, many of the situations I'd experienced on project began to make sense. Projects don't fail because of disruptions. These always occur. What really makes the difference is how people react when everything becomes uncertain. And that's when a question arose, why do some teams manage to reorganize themselves and keep it moving forward, whilst others get bogged down in conflicts and deadlocks? Looking at the decision, delay, change, and challenges in this project, I began to spot patterns that repeat themselves time and time again. There were not matching formulas or rigid methodology. There were elements that we were always present when things went well. I call these sets of elements build decision structures, or create a clear structure for decisions, mm, understand stakeholders, understand the people involved, integrate diverse perspective, linking decision to outcomes, develop trust continuously. Because ultimately, the lesson is not just about building cathedrals. It's about how we build any project, organization, or system. And the way we build them ultimately defines what we are truly capable of creating. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Antonio. So you were speeding up? I don't know. All the time is back. No, I mean yeah. I'm really happy to open up for questions.
Thanks, Alex.
I could hear a microphone opening, but there is no question coming up. Okay.
I
Oh,
had
yes, Alexander.
it's yeah, it's not really a question. I would just like to thank Antonio for the very insightful presentation. I'm yeah, it grabbed my attention because it's very close to my subject and my study and my work, and it complements it. It expresses maybe with different words pretty much the same, but I'm just thankful, and I liked very much because you mentioned the people aspect, very important, which I would emphasize at the panel as well. So again, great, and would be happy to hook up. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Yes, so if there are no further questions, and if you like, either yourself or I will also do. Oh no, there's a question. Oh, whoa, whoa. How do you manage multidisciplinary teams? It's coming from Percy.
Thanks for the question. Well, I was this kind of project is particular complex because a big part of the people who are involved in this project are volunteers, um, sharing their effort, and we try to develop 1 year in advance some planning for some teams who will arrive to the project, because some part of the teams arrive from Italy or different parts of the world. But was a particular to manage this. As this organization was uh, OMG, which is Operazione Mato Grosso, was a part of the big organization located in Italy. They help us to planify some specific details when the part of the teams arrive. That's why it's easy when you are involved in this kind of project. We learn by project by project. But this particular part of the planification was difficult. We need to help another professional, especially the people involved in the specific teams.
Okay, thank you. So there is another question. So how is managing cathedral, you probably meant, different from other building projects?
Oh, can you repeat, please?
Yeah, it is. How is managing cathedral? I think it's meant. So maybe Sifo, you can. What did you mean? Did you mean how is managing cathedral different from other building projects, or
Yes,
what
that's
did?
correct. That's
Ah,
what I
okay,
meant.
okay. So maybe making these differences even clearer, Antonio.
This is how is managing cathedral different? This is the question, right? From another
Yes,
building project.
exactly.
In these kinds of projects, we use some specific elements and we try to connect some information that one element another, not all the same elements. But this particular and extremely different because there are some a specific element in the design of this cathedral. When you build a cathedral, you need to consider that how is the design. Maybe it's some design aligned with a specific Italian plant or a specific elements. And in the part of the elements and the design, almost conditioned this another part of the project. But only we have some particular elements, but not at all. I could say 25% of these elements of one cathedral could use in another cathedral as experience. Uh,
Okay, thank you. So I will really give it now. It's the next question. So I think you are the speaker with the most questions here today. So we will take this. So there's one, not sure if this was maybe mentioned in the presentation, but someone would like to know how environmental aspects were addressed in the project.
ah, no, I'm not. It's a hard question. The last question is a little bit hard. Wait, and when we start this kind of project, as this is a big project in the specific second project located in Chota, this is a part of the Cajamarca, Peru. We had the support of the government and the representative of charge to help in this because, as you know, you arrived in the first project, but we need collect this information. And this is a basic part of the initiation phase when you say, okay, collect the historical information and the information of the first project and the environment. But it says the when you arrive in this kind of project, do you establish some hold kickoff meeting? As you know, this kickoff meeting will take more than 3 days because you need to recognize some information, collect information, and most valuable information. And as I said, this is an historical situation with people who have some experience like life in this. But this is part. We arrived and we had the support of the governments in first.
Okay, thank you so much. I shared the link to your profile.
Thank you.
So for anyone who wants to follow up and for anyone also who maybe missed part of it, there's a recording. We will share all this. So you will have a second chance to listen to all these interesting presentations.